Hello and welcome to this introduction to LLMs with Ollama in Python. Now before we get to actually coding up a simple LLM application, we're going to discuss what exactly an LLM even is. An LLM can be treated as just a black box that takes in some input text and outputs the next small bit of text. So you can feed it in the color of the sky and it'll output is. Then you feed it, you take the output the LLM outputs, you put it back onto the input text, so as you can see we're feeding it the color of the sky is, and then we feed it back into the LLM. The LLM will now output blue. Then we do that again and it will output a period. Then we do that again and it will output a new line. And in this instance we can take the new line as the LLM basically saying, I'm done, we're going to cut it off here and then feed it back to the user. So now that you have that really quick introduction as to what an LLM even is, time to start coding. So before we start coding, we're going to install Ollama. So first, go to ollama.ai/download. The link to this will be in the description, so you can click it. Then select your operating system. So as you can see, Windows is coming soon. However, if you're on Windows, you can install WSL, which is effectively a small Linux environment on your Windows machine, and then you can install it using the Linux command. If you're on Mac, just download it, follow the standard Mac install instructions. However, I'm on Linux, so I'm going to install Ollama with this command. So we paste the command into our terminal, and password. And as you can see, Ollama has now been installed into a computer. We can now go Ollama run, and we can say something like Llama 2. And then it will load it onto the GPU and handle all of that for you. So that then you'll be able to talk to it. So it's loading it onto the GPU right now. We wait a bit. And now we can talk to locally. And this is how you just test that it works. So you can say, what color is the sky? And it will tell you the sky is, it'll tell you everything. And so we can quit out of that. Now, in order to set up the Python, it's best to do this in a virtual environment, and I like to use Conda. So if you wish to use a virtual environment, feel free to set up Conda, and then follow the instructions I'm going to do here. So first I'm going to actually create the environment. So first, Conda create. So first we're going to create the Conda environment. Yes. Then we're going to install pip into the Conda environment so that Conda can actually use pip. Yes. Then we're going to install Ollama. So this is the actual Python package for Ollama. We're installing it now so we can just import into Python, and it's super easy. We're going to make a quick Python file that effectively allows us to test that everything is working as it is. So I'm going to be using NeoVim as my code editor. You can use VS Code or anything else. It's just a quick Python file that you edit. First, as always, we're going to be wanting to import Ollama. Then we just want to get a quick query from the user. So we just get a quick input. Then we're going to get the AI response to the user's query. So we just say response equals ollama.chat. So because we're chatting with the LLM, ollama.chat, then model equals llama2, because that's the model we're going to be using. You can use any one of the models on Mistral website. It's just in ollama.ai/library, or if you go to the website, you just click on models. It'll bring you to this page. It'll show you all the models that they have. They have some multimodal ones. They have a mixture of expert models. They have large models. They have smaller models. You can pick whichever one is best for your current use case. So we're going to be using Llama 2 because it's a pretty good default model. Then, because we're chatting with the model, we have to give it a list of messages. So messages is a list. And in the list, it's a list full of dictionaries, and Dictionaries contain who is speaking, so role. And so we're going to say the user is speaking. And then it also contains what's actually being said, so content. And this content is the query. Then we're just going to print what is actually said, so response. But response, it returns a dictionary that with a whole bunch of data, and we don't really care about that data right now. So we're just going to get what we want. So we want the message from it, and we also want just the content of the message. And so save this file, quit out, and then we're going to run main.py. So then we can just ask this some questions. What color is the sky? Now you've written the first little bit of Python code that allows you to talk with an LLM. Now, of course, it's just a one-time query, and so what we're going to do now is we're going to build upon this to make it multiple queries. So as you can see, our LLM responded with, the color of the sky can vary depending on the time of day and atmospheric conditions. During the daytime, the sky is typically blue, etc., etc., etc. Is responding to your query. But you can't ask it anything else. So what we're going to do now is we're going to update our code to allow us to ask it more questions. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to effectively put all of this into a while loop. So, and we also want to store the contents of all the messages. So we make a message loop, while true, and we just put this in the while loop. We want this to go as long as possible. Then, instead of just having the messages here, what we're going to do is we're going to feed it the messages list we've made. And we append what was in there to the messages list. Messages.append. And remember, it's a list of dictionaries, and the dictionaries contain the user saying stuff, so the role, so user, and what they actually said. Content is the query, what the user actually said. Then what we want to do is take the AI's response and put it back into both the messages list and then just print it out. So we're just going to take the content, so response content equals response message and then content. So we're just going to, it's just the content of the response. And then we're just going to append it to the list. Messages dot append. Again, who is saying the role assistant, because the AI assistant is what is saying this content, and then we'll say the content is the response content, which is again the variable that just contains the content of the response. Then we're just going to print response content. Could we have left that print the same? Yeah, but this way it's easier to understand what's going on. And then let's run the code. What color is the sky? Oh, there's an error. Oh, that has to be a string. Because it's a dictionary, and I forgot about the fact it's a string. That was a quick issue. As solved. What color is sky? And it should respond with the color of the sky, it depends. And then you can continue asking it, how about on Mars? And because we made the list of messages that we're feeding in, the LLM has access to the entire conversation history to produce the next token as to what the LLM should say. So we say, it's different because etc., etc. You can ask it Jupiter question mark, and it understands the context, and it will explain. You can also ask it some code questions like, can you write me a function in Python that will print the nth Fibonacci number? And the LLM will go, it will generate the code, as you can see here, the code to generate the nth Fibonacci number. Here it's doing it recursively. It's also explaining the code, and you just have a real quick assistant running locally on your machine, and it's easy to work with. In future tutorials, we're going to go more in depth onto stuff like how can you connect this LLM to a RAG system. So RAG stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation. So you can then just upload a bunch of documents to a database, and then the LLM will have access to all those documents. In other future tutorials, we can do stuff like how can we get the LLM to call functions. So if the user asks for the weather, the LLM will call a function to get it the weather, and then it will use the information of the weather to tell the user what the weather is. And other cool stuff like that, connecting the LLM with other services. And so that is the first video on this series on an introduction to using LLMs with Ollama, and I hope you enjoyed. Like and subscribe if you want to see more content like this from me, and I hope you guys have a good day.